If your hands look like you've been fighting a cat and your puppy turns into a tiny alligator, every time you try to pet them, play with them, or just walk past them, I need you to keep watching. Because there is one specific mistake almost every new puppy owner makes that actually makes the biting worse. And once you stop making it and start doing the one thing that actually works, you will see a difference within days, not weeks. This is the fastest, most effective way to stop puppy biting, backed by actual veterinary behavior science, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do it, step by step, starting right now. Let's start with something that's going to take a weight off your shoulders immediately. Your puppy is not broken. Your puppy is not aggressive. Your puppy is not going to grow up to be a dangerous dog because they're currently treating your hand like a chew toy at 10 weeks old. Puppy biting is completely 100% normal. It's how puppies explore the world. It's how they play with their littermates. It's how they interact with literally everything around them before they have hands or the ability to pick things up and examine them the way we do. Their mouth is their primary tool for investigating reality. So the goal here isn't actually to stop your puppy from ever putting their mouth on something. That's not realistic, and honestly not even the right goal. The real goal is something called bite inhibition. That means teaching your puppy to control the force of their mouth, getting them to a place where even if they do mouth you or grab a sleeve, they've learned not to bite down hard. That distinction matters enormously, and it's the foundation of everything I'm about to show you. Before we get into the technique, you need to understand why your puppy is actually biting, because different causes need slightly different responses. Puppy biting generally falls into a few main categories. There's exploration biting. This happens most in very young puppies, usually between 8 and 12 weeks old, where literally everything goes in the mouth. Your hands, your shoelaces, the corner of your couch, your kid's stuffed animal. Nothing is off limits because the puppy has no concept yet of what's appropriate to chew and what isn't. There's teething. Puppies start losing their baby teeth and growing in adult teeth, typically starting around 3 to 4 months. And biting tends to peak hard during this transition, somewhere around 12 to 13 weeks of age. Their gums genuinely hurt, and chewing on things relieves that discomfort. This is not your puppy being difficult. This is your puppy being in actual physical discomfort and doing the only thing they know how to do about it. There's overstimulation and play biting. This is the one that happens most often when you're actively playing with your puppy, especially with your hands, and things escalate. The puppy gets excited, the mouth comes out, and suddenly what started as fun play turns into you yelping and pulling your hand back. And then there's a smaller, rarer category, which is actual fear or aggression-based biting. This is much less common in puppies under 16 months, but it's important to know the difference. If your puppy is stiffening their body, growling in a way that seems genuinely defensive rather than playful, guarding food or toys aggressively, or biting in a context that seems rooted in fear rather than excitement, that's a different situation, and I'll come back to exactly what to do about that later in this video. For the vast majority of puppy owners watching this right now, though, you're dealing with normal developmental biting, exploration, teething, and overexcited play, and that is completely trainable, usually within just a couple of weeks if you do it correctly. Now here's the mistake. The one thing that makes puppy biting worse almost every single time, and it's something well-meaning owners do constantly without even realizing it. Punishment. Yelling at your puppy, physically correcting them, tapping their nose, holding their mouth shut. Any kind of verbal or physical correction meant to scare or hurt them into stopping. Here's why this backfires. Punishment doesn't actually teach your puppy how they should behave instead. It only teaches them to either suppress the behavior temporarily out of fear, or in some cases it teaches them to escalate the biting, because now they feel like they need to defend themselves. Using punishment-based training methods on a puppy leads to fear and anxiety are exactly the conditions that create bigger behavioral problems down the road, not smaller ones. So if you've been swatting your puppy's nose or yelling no and getting nowhere, or actually watching things get worse, that's not because your puppy is stubborn or bad. It's because that approach fundamentally doesn't align with how puppies learn. Positive reinforcement works. Punishment does not. That's not an opinion. That's what the actual behavioral research consistently shows. So let's throw punishment out completely. And let's get into what actually works. The core technique, the yelp and redirect method. This is the technique that mimics exactly how puppies learn bite inhibition naturally from their littermates, and it is the single most effective method for fast results. Here's how it works, step by step. When you're playing with your puppy and they bite down too hard, whether that's on your hand, your finger, your sleeve, wherever, immediately let out a short, high-pitched yelp, something like ow, or a sharp yip. The goal is to mimic the exact sound another puppy would make if your puppy bit them too hard during play. This is the same feedback signal they'd naturally get from a littermate. And it's a language they already instinctively understand. The moment you yelp, let your hand go completely limp and still. Don't yank it away dramatically, because a fast, jerky movement actually looks like play to a puppy and can encourage them to bite again, chasing the movement. Instead, freeze. Go still and quiet. This should startle your puppy and interrupt the biting, at least for a moment. When your puppy stops and pulls back, even briefly, that's your cue to immediately praise them. A calm, warm good and maybe even a small treat. This is the critical piece that a lot of people skip. You're not just interrupting the bad behavior, you're actively rewarding the moment they stop and choose something gentler, like licking instead of biting. Then resume whatever you were doing. Play again like normal. If your puppy bites hard again, repeat the exact same sequence. Yelp, go limp, wait for them to stop, praise the stop. You can repeat this up to about 3 times within a 15-minute window. If it keeps happening beyond that, that's your signal to move into the next phase, which is the timeout. The timeout method, sometimes the yelp alone, doesn't fully do the job, especially with puppies who are naturally high energy, or who get so overstimulated during play that the yelp isn't enough to break through the excitement. This is where timeouts come in, and there's actual published research behind this one. A study in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior found that consistent use of timeouts reduced biting behavior by 63% within just 2 weeks. That's a massive result for something this simple. Here's how to do it correctly. When your puppy delivers a hard bite, yelp just like before. When your puppy startles, stops, and looks at you, or looks around the room, calmly remove your hand or whatever they were biting, and immediately end the play session. Don't make a big scene out of it. Don't yell. Just quietly stand up, turn away, or leave the room for a short period. Somewhere around 30 seconds to a minute is plenty. Then come back and resume normal interaction like nothing happened. What this teaches your puppy, very clearly and very quickly, is that biting too hard doesn't just get a small reaction, it actually makes the fun stop completely. Puppies want engagement. They want play. Removing that attention the instant biting happens is one of the most powerful consequences you can create. And it does it without any fear, without any pain, and without any punishment at all. Redirect to the right thing every single time. Here's a piece that ties the whole system together and dramatically speeds up results. Every single time you interrupt a bite, whether through the yelp method or a timeout, you need to immediately give your puppy something appropriate to bite instead. This means having a toy or chew item within arm's reach, basically at all times during a play session. The moment you interrupt the biting on your hand, swap in a toy. Let them redirect that biting energy onto something that's actually meant for it. This does 2 things simultaneously. First, it satisfies the puppy's very real, very biological need to chew, especially if they're teething. And second, it very quickly builds the association in their brain that hands and skin are not for biting. But this toy right here absolutely is. You are not asking your puppy to stop wanting to bite things. You're teaching them what the acceptable target is. A great trick here, especially if your puppy is teething, is to take a plain washcloth, soak it in a little bit of low-sodium broth, and freeze it. The cold helps soothe sore gums, and the puppy gets a satisfying, safe thing to gnaw on that isn't your hand or your favorite pair of shoes. Puzzle toys and dedicated chew toys are also excellent here, not just because they redirect biting, but because they give your puppy mental stimulation. And a mentally stimulated puppy that's had appropriate outlets for chewing is simply going to bite less overall. The reward timing piece, almost nobody does right. Here's a subtle but genuinely important detail. When your puppy licks you instead of biting, or chooses to interact gently instead of mouthing hard, mark that moment immediately. Say something like "yes" in a happy, clear tone and follow it with a small treat if you have one available. The reason timing matters so much here is that puppies live very much in the moment. If you reward gentle behavior even a few seconds too late, the puppy won't necessarily connect the reward to the gentle behavior. It has to be immediate. Yes, in the exact instant they choose licking over biting, or the exact instant they stop after a yelp. That immediate connection between gentle behavior and a reward is what builds bite inhibition quickly and permanently, rather than just temporarily. Prevent the problem before it even starts. A huge amount of biting comes down to two very manageable factors: overstimulation and lack of outlets. Fix these, and you'll notice biting drop significantly even before your training technique kicks in. First, exercise. A tired puppy is dramatically less likely to be a biting machine. A good general guideline is around 5 minutes of active play per month of your puppy's age, done about twice a day. So a 3-month-old puppy would benefit from roughly 15 minutes of active play twice daily. This isn't a strict rule. Every puppy and every breed is different, but it gives you a starting point. An under-exercised puppy has pent-up energy that very often comes out as biting. Second, puppy-proof your space. Remove tempting items like shoes, cords, and anything chewable within easy reach. Every time a puppy successfully chews on something they shouldn't, even if you didn't witness it, they're reinforcing in their own head that chewing on random objects equals fun. Removing the opportunity removes the reinforcement. Third, keep a consistent routine. Feeding, play, and nap times at roughly the same intervals every day genuinely reduce overstimulation, because a puppy who knows what's coming and isn't running purely on unpredictable bursts of energy tends to be calmer overall, and a calmer puppy bites less. Fourth, once your puppy is fully vaccinated, safe, supervised playdates with other calm, well-socialized dogs can genuinely help. Other dogs will naturally correct overly hard biting in ways that reinforce what you're already teaching at home, whether that's walking away or a small vocal correction. This is literally how puppies learn bite inhibition from their littermates in the first place, and continuing that kind of feedback from appropriate playmates reinforces the lesson. How fast does this actually work? Realistically, most puppies show meaningful improvement within 2 to 4 weeks of consistent training using this approach. Not zero biting in 2 weeks, that's not a fair expectation for a young animal still developing, but a noticeable, real decrease in frequency and intensity. The single biggest variable in how fast this works is consistency. If you yelp and redirect during one play session, but let your kids roughhouse with the puppy's mouth on their hands the next, or if one household member enforces the timeout rule and another doesn't, your puppy gets mixed signals, and mixed signals slow everything down. Every single person interacting with your puppy needs to be using the same rules. That single change, getting the whole household on the same page, is often the difference between a puppy who improves in 2 weeks and one who's still struggling at 4 months. Biting typically peaks hardest during the teething window, generally around 12 to 13 weeks, and by the time all of your puppy's adult teeth are in, usually around 7 months old, teething stops being a factor entirely. With clear, consistent responses from you during this entire window, biting should steadily decline and largely resolve well before your puppy reaches adulthood, when this isn't just normal puppy behavior. I promised I'd come back to this, so here it is. Most puppy biting is completely normal and completely fixable with the method I just walked you through. But there are a few signals that mean it's time to bring in a professional rather than keep troubleshooting on your own. If your puppy already has their adult teeth and is still biting hard enough to cause real pain, break skin, or draw blood, and none of the bite inhibition techniques are making a difference, that's a sign to reach out to a professional. If you're seeing your puppy stiffen their body around food, toys, or possessions, that's a different behavior entirely called resource guarding, and it needs its own specific approach, not general bite inhibition training. And if biting seems to be coming from genuine fear or anxiety rather than excitement or exploration. For example, if your puppy is biting defensively when approached in certain situations rather than during normal rowdy play, that's worth getting evaluated properly too. In any of these cases, look for a certified dog behavior consultant, a certified applied animal behaviorist, or a veterinary behaviorist. These are the professionals with the actual qualifications to work through more complex cases. And getting help early is always easier than letting a harder behavior pattern set in over months. The American Kennel Club's own chief veterinarian has said plainly that if play biting hasn't moderated by around 6 months old, that's the point to bring in an experienced trainer or behavior specialist. That's not a failure on your part. That's just responsible ownership. Catching something early instead of hoping it resolves on its own indefinitely. Let's put it all together. Here is your actual game plan starting today. Play with your puppy like normal. The instant they bite too hard, yelp sharply, go limp, and wait for them to stop. The moment they stop, praise them warmly or offer a small treat. If the hard biting continues after a few repeats, calmly end the play session with a brief timeout, walking away for 30 seconds to a minute before resuming. Every single time you interrupt a bite, redirect that energy onto an appropriate toy or chew item immediately. Keep your puppy's exercise, feeding, and nap schedule consistent to reduce overstimulation in the first place. Puppy-proof your space so inappropriate chewing on furniture and cords simply isn't an option. And make sure every single person in your household is using the exact same rules every single time, with 0 exceptions. Do this consistently, and you are not just suppressing the biting. You're actually teaching your puppy real bite inhibition, a skill that stays with them for the rest of their life and makes them a dramatically safer, gentler, more trustworthy dog as an adult. Your puppy isn't trying to hurt you. They're trying to figure out the world with the only tool they've got. Give them a better way to do that, stay consistent, and stay patient, and this phase will pass faster than you think.